T. Wainright Miller, a fourth-generation Floridian, began his public service career at the age of 14, spending 2 years in Washington, D.C., working in the House of Representatives under the wing of Congressman Joe Hendricks. Born in Clearwater and raised in Kissimmee, he served in the United States Army during World War II before earning a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Georgia Tech. Thank goodness we're hearing from somebody besides Auburn graduates and Florida State graduates. Thank you. In 1988, he was awarded an honorary doctorate of business administration by Carson Newman College in Jefferson City, Tennessee. He is a registered professional engineer in Florida, Louisiana, and Massachusetts. Mr. Miller moved to Fort Myers in 1956, where he helped establish the Lee County Mosquito Control District, and he served as the president of the Florida Anti-Mosquito Association and the Aquatic Plant Management Society, then known as the Hyatt Control Society. And he's also served as vice president of the Florida Engineering Society, where he remains a fellow member. By the way, he retired as director of the Lee County Hyatt Controls District in 1994. He was named to the Hall of Success at Georgia Tech in 1993 and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1997. He and his lovely wife, Mavis, live in the Fort Myers area. And he didn't end his career with the Aquatic Plant Management Society when his first year as president. He served as the secretary-treasurer for many years, counting every penny and nickel and keeping the society alive through those early years. So we owe a great deal of gratitude to those folks that are with us now and have been enjoying this meeting, to the hard work in those early years of Mr. T. Wayne Miller. So if you'll help me congratulate him, and Dr. Miller, if you'd come forward, we'd like to have you give us some remarks.
Thank you, Ken. Gonna have to suffer with this. I've got asthma. It's a coughing asthma, but we'll get through it. I've got a perfectly good joke to tell about people that are over-introduced, but I'm not permitted to tell it anymore. So, I've got a picture I want you to look at. Mavis has it here. Start one of those on one side of the room and one on the other.
You want to pass them around?
The reason I want you to look at that picture is that picture itself is the genesis of this organization. 50 years ago, the principal problem in the southeastern United States was water hyacinths. They invaded the waterways, they stopped traffic, they cut off drainage. There was a major hyacinth problem. The control was, at best, inadequate. In 1960, there were two agencies that were involved in control of water hyacinths. On the lower East Coast, the Central and Southern Florida Flood Control District, now the South Florida Water Management District, controlled hyacinths in their area. The rest of the state was taken care of by the Game and Freshwater Fish Commission. Zeb Grant was running the Flood Control District. He was the 5th president of the society. Bill Woods was running the Game Commission program. He was the 4th president of this group. Bill Woods was underfunded, under-equipped, and his organization was totally politically motivated. The only way that he got a job was for the legislature to send him out to it. What happened was that places got like this picture. Everything was clogged over with water hyacinths, and what you did, you went to your local legislator, and you became the squeaking wheel. And when you were loud enough, Bill Woods was directed to send his crew in, 4 or 5 crews really, with airboats. they'd come in with 2,4-D, they'd spray everything, they'd sink it there, get things in pretty good shape, and they'd go away until that cycle went over again. Well, on November the 19th, 1960, that picture that's going around was published in the Saturday Evening Post, a 2-page color spread. Now, those of you that are too young to remember, in 1960, the Saturday Evening Post was a well-respected national publication. Anybody that didn't subscribe to Saturday Evening Post had access to it. Now, I'll tell you right now, the state of Florida hated that picture. And if the state of Florida hated the picture, I'll tell you right now, it was poorly received in Lee County because the picture was taken in downtown Fort Myers, in the county seat of my county. And in Lee County, that precipitated some action. Our local state senator, Travis Gresham, came to me and he said, we've got to do something about these water houses. And I want to introduce legislation to make a program possible, and I want you to run it. Well, I didn't have the slightest interest in running it. I was operating a 3-year-old mosquito program that was underfunded and under-equipped, and I didn't need another problem. But after discussion, I said, you know, the county commission ought to do this. And he said, if the county commission does it, it'll flop. I need for you to take this over. So after some discussion, I said, all right, I'll do it under 2 conditions. One is that I don't have to take mosquito control money to do it. You've got to fund it separately. Give me a taxing mechanism to control weeds. Second thing is I want legal authority to work up the Caloosahatchee River to and including Lake Okeechobee. That was a distance of 65 miles and through 2 other counties. And lo and behold, they gave it to me. And I had some people say, you know, why should we take Lee County money and do water houses work in Lake Okeechobee 60 miles away? And my response was, you know, if I've got to kill water hyacinths and sink them, I want to sink them in Glades and Hendrick County and create a blind mosquito problem up there, not in Lee County. And we did that for some time, but suddenly I had a new responsibility. I knew precious little about how to control mosquitoes. I didn't know anything at all about how to control weeds. None. And I knew I had to get some information in a hurry. So I determined that the Weed Society of America, now the Weed Science Society of America, was meeting in St. Louis. Off to St. Louis I went. Huge meeting, 2,000 delegates, 5-day meeting, Monday through Friday. Get a program and a look. Aquatics are an abbreviated half day, 3 hours of aquatics in a 5-day meeting. But I went to the session to learn how to control water hyacinths. Well, there was a fellow there that gave a paper about cattails. I'll tell you right now, he knew about cattails. He spent 30 minutes telling me about the life cycle of cattails. He knew about cattails. And I said, when he finished, I said, hey, I dig canals for mosquito control, and they're permanent water canals. And cattails are a problem. He did a study with assorted herbicides on an aquatic plant. I don't know what the plant was, and I don't know what the materials were, but he had 4 or 5 products, and he did a study with varying dosages, and he was attempting to develop a scenario where he'd get 98% control of the weeds. And he said, you use this much of this product, and this much of this product, and this much of this product, that's going to give you this 98% control. And I said, hey, good study. You didn't mention cost. What's the comparative cost of these 4 or 5 materials? And he said, well, cost was not a part of this study. Oh. And I'm sitting here, as you are, thinking, how am I going to select a material if I don't know what the cost is? And I thought, uh-oh, I'm in the wrong place. I am not going to learn how to control water hyacinths in Southwest Florida. from the Weed Society of America. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know, this is a meeting where research people give papers for the benefit of other research people. They're not giving papers for the benefit of anybody that's going to use the research. And if there's no organization out there to do it, there needs to be an organization that will develop a bridge, a communication between the people that do the research and the people that are in the field doing the work. They've got to communicate with each other, and they're not doing it here. They need to communicate research to people like me that have a control problem. Well, I voiced this around, and it fell on sensitive ears. And the next thing I knew, I was seated on a chair in the hotel, lobby of the hotel there in St. Louis, talking to a Dr. Timmons. Dr. Timmons was director of the Agricultural Research Lab in Fort Lauderdale, what I term the Weed Lab. If I'm not mistaken, he was president of the Weed Society of America that year. Is that right, Bob? I think he was. If he's not, he was very involved in the Weed Society of America. He sat me down and he said, listen, I hear you're talking about forming a new organization. You forget that. Forget it right now. We don't need another splinter group. He said, people splinter off from this organization. They flare up for a year or two. They take strength out of our group, and they die. And that's what you'll do. You'll pull things out of here, and in a year or two, you'll be gone, and it'll be over. What you need to do is work in this group. I said, look, I went to your aquatic section, 3 hours long, no papers that interested me. I got to have a group that's going to tell me how to cope with my problem in Lee County. He said, then you need to get involved in the Weed Society of America. You need to expand the aquatic section. You need to get the right papers. I said, listen to me. This organization's not going to do it. And I'm going to do what I can to get a group together that's going to provide communication between research people and field people. And he told me in no uncertain terms, he said, I'll tell you right now, if you persist in this, I'll do everything in my power to discourage my employees from participating in that group. Well, I did and he did. Let me tell you about our organization meeting on Yuzep Island. 21 people met. Most of them were mosquito control people because that's what I had access to. I grabbed people who had at least a peripheral interest in aquatic weeds, got them together on Yuzep. We talked about creating an organization to do that, to bridge research and operations. There was a vote, were lengthy discussions. We got, by the way, we got 2 people there from Dr. Timmons' lab under some duress. We wanted a 3rd one, but discretion was the better part of valor, and Lyle Weldon developed a conflict and he didn't come. But we got 2. When we voted, there were 20 votes in favor of forming this organization. 1 vote opposed from one of the representatives of the lab in Fort Lauderdale. The 2nd representative of the lab in Fort Lauderdale, we talked into serving on the board. We got him seated as a member of the board of trustees of this organization. About a month later, he was unexpectedly transferred to California. And you know, I didn't care, because all of a sudden we went overnight from a local group to a nationwide organization. We had a member of the board of directors in California. And he did work out there. He did some missionary work. But the following year, in 1962, this organization met really for the first time in Fort Lauderdale. We did it because that's where the lab was. We were really afraid that nobody would come. We beat the bushes. We got all the mosquito control people we could coerce into coming. But to our great surprise, people came from everywhere. Bill Wunderlich with the Corps of Engineers came from New Orleans. Noah Tillman came from Palatka. John Gallagher came with Amchem team. We registered 250 people in Fort Lauderdale. And this organization was an instant success because it served then and now a useful purpose. And what about our no vote on Uzella? He became the 7th president of this society. He's been a stronger and more consistent supporter of this organization than I have. He's in the room today. Bob Blackburn, would you stand up and be recognized? Mr. President, I appreciate the opportunity to make those comments. I'm sorry I took so much of your time.